Hello, everyone. My name is Burke Solomon. I am so excited to be joining the conversation for this Trigger conference. And just to give you a little bit of information about myself, I am based in Atlanta, Georgia. I am someone who's worked my entire career in the technology industry. I've been on all sides. I've been an entrepreneur. I am now an investor. So, spending a lot of time with other entrepreneurs, helping them grow and scale their companies. And I actually grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. So I always tell people I got it honest. Racism and sexism and ageism are certainly everywhere. And I experienced all of them while I was building Part Pick. And just to take a step back, for those who aren't familiar, Part Pick is a company that I started back in 2012, where we created technology to recognize replacement parts. So we made it super simple. If you needed to find something for a repair project, you could take a picture of the part that you needed or that you needed to replace, and we could tell you exactly what that part was and where you could buy the replacement. And I built that company up starting at age 23. It really came to me, the idea came from my experience working in the industrial parts industry. So I was a call center manager, and I was the person who got all the escalations when we sent the wrong products out to our customers. And so eventually I got sick and tired of customers yelling at me and saying, "You sent me the wrong thing." And I felt like there had to be a better solution. And then I also had a personal story. My grandfather was looking for a part for his tractor. We have a family farm, and his tractor broke down in the middle of the harvest. And so he called me to try to help him find a part for this tractor. I looked all around, and of course, I'm working at a parts company. Before that, I worked at Google. So, I was pretty good at searching and sleuthing the internet, but I could not find this part. And so that experience with my grandfather mixed with what I was experiencing every day on the job put this idea in my head that there has to be a better way to find parts. And so that's where Part Pick, the idea came from. And initially, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Make it super simple for people to find parts by allowing them to take a picture. And I thought, this is a great idea. I can definitely be the one to bring this to life because of my experience both at Google and at McMaster-Carr, which was the name of the company. And it never really occurred to me when I first came up with the idea that I would face challenges related to my physicality and related to who I am as a person, my identity. And it wasn't until I started to pitch the idea to other people and I was, coming up against people who were questioning, can I be the one to lead this company? Questioning my credentials and really showcasing their biases as I was going through the process of pitching. And that was really hard for me because, going into it, being as young as I was and somewhat naive, those types of challenges. And I know that, now looking back on that experience, that it really was an impediment for me in some cases because we weren't able to attract the level of investment that I would expect given the type of technology we built. We did have people say, in so many words that they weren't interested in investing in a Black woman run company. And it wasn't until obviously, well, not obvious maybe to you all, but we sold the business in 2016 to Amazon. And obviously that was a huge validation of what we were saying all along, which was that we built this really incredible technology and there was a big market need for it. But unfortunately, we had a hard time convincing the investment community that that was the case. And so my vow to myself while I was building the company was that I wasn't going to let the biases and the racism and all the isms that I was facing hold me back from what I felt was my destiny in building up this company and using the experience to help other people. And so what I kind of promised myself was that when I got on the other side of that experience, I would get on the other side of the table and really become the investor that I wish I had and be that person for other people who look like me so that when they come into a room, they never have to worry about if they're being judged on the basis of their skin color or of their gender. And really, they can get to the heart of whatever it is that they're building. And that's what I've really sought out to do over the last 5 years since I sold my business, becoming an angel investor first, and now I'm an investor with Collab Capital, the fund that I started with two partners. And so my experience really has shaped what I've gone on to do and what I plan to do for the rest of my career.
I love the story.
So we started Collab, actually started sort of getting together and coming up with the idea for it in 2018. And I started it with two partners, Barry Gibbons and Justin Dawkins. Barry and I, Barry, Justin, and I, we all grew up together in the startup ecosystem here in Atlanta. All of us started companies around the same time in 2012. And so Barry and I, we actually had our offices side by side. So we literally were building our companies right there next to each other. And we also exited our companies around the same time. And we were having the same thought independently, which was, okay, what's next? How do we make sure that the next generation of founders doesn't have such as hard of a time as we had? And so we were thinking about this independently. And then Barry and I actually went to church together. And I remember I was seeing him at church, and I would always try to catch him after church. And I would never be able to catch him. And I was wondering why is he dodging me? Like, what's going on? And finally, one day I called him and I asked him, how are you doing? What's going on? What are you thinking about doing next? And he really just broke down and let me know that he was going through a depression. Although he had an exit in his company, it wasn't exactly what he had hoped for. And he was trying to figure out, what is he going to do next? And he started to think about something related to helping Black founders, but didn't exactly know what he wanted to do yet. And I was like, wow, well, I'm glad that you told me that, because I've been experiencing the same thing. I was going through my own depression and in the aftermath of selling my company. And again, even though it was a great outcome, it was still not exactly what I had envisioned. And so I was a little bit, in a funk about that. And so we started to get together and just, kind of talk through what we were experiencing. And then, we looped Justin in, and he's our resident software guy. So he's been the software developer for the last 20 years. And we came to the table and said, bringing in all of our expertise, our experience, having built businesses, what should we do? And we landed on this idea that the biggest gap that exists particularly for Black entrepreneurs here is access to capital. And, how can we help to solve that? And we decided we're going to be the solution that we think needs to exist. And we are going to raise a fund. And so we set out in 2019. Initially, we thought we would do a $10 million first fund. And then once we started to have conversations and understand, what kind of impact we wanted to have, we decided actually we need to go bigger. And so we quickly changed it to a $50 million fund. But initially, fundraising was super difficult, especially given the fact that we had this very specific focus of investing in Black entrepreneurs. A lot of people said that's too narrow. Or they said that we wouldn't be able to find enough Black entrepreneurs to invest in. And we knew that wasn't true, because we knew that we personally had already spent time with and mentored and advised many entrepreneurs that weren't getting looks from other investors. So we had a lot of conviction in this idea, and all of us individually and collectively, prayed on it and believed that this is what God was leading us to do as far as investing in the Black community. And so we were set on this idea. We went out to fundraise. We were fortunate that we met folks at the Kauffman Foundation, and they became our first limited partner in the fund. And then we just, kind of went on the tour to try to get more people involved. And then we got to 2020, and of course, COVID-19 hit. And that pretty much put a halt on all of our fundraising efforts. And so that happened. And then another major occurrence last year happened, which was the murder of George Floyd in May. And when that happened, there were all of these corporations that made declarations around the work that they wanted to do, the pledges, that they were going to be making to the Black community. And so that really sparked us to say, okay, there's something happening, and we are already set up as a fund. We've already started the fundraise, and we kind of turned back on our efforts from stopping them from the pandemic. That actually accelerated the fundraising process for us, because we were already situated, and we were kind of the answer to what a lot of the corporates were suggesting that they wanted to do as far as direct investing into the Black community. And so we were able to get investment from Bank of America, Google, Apple, Goldman Sachs, and a lot of other major corporations, which helped us to quickly reach that $50 million goal. And so now we closed the first fund as far as completing the fundraise in May of this year. And so far we have made 11 investments in Black-led companies across the US. When I was building my company, I had a bit of a crash when we sold, and it was because I had not taken care of myself along the way. And so now I'm really a big advocate for making sure that you are taking care of your whole self. And one of the things that first thing I recommend is speak to someone, even if you're feeling okay. make sure that you have some support from either your support system if that's your family, or take it a step further and see a counselor or therapist. I think that's really important to maintaining your mental health, especially as a founder. The journey is so hard and it can be so lonely. So ensuring that you have that support system and folks that you can talk to is really, really important. And then I think, using your time in such a way where you are, of course, managing all the things that you have to manage and, taking time with your team, but you're also taking time with yourself. One of the things that I've tried to do, I'm not perfect at it, but I have tried to do is really take time to go on walks and to spend time outside and to give myself time to think, which is, easy to that seems simple, but it's easy to miss because you get such in a habit of work, 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 meetings, 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 and you don't allow yourself time to just think. And I found that sometimes the walks are when my best ideas come to mind. And if I don't give myself that opportunity and that time, I'm not able to really perform at the highest level. So that's really important. And then you have to think about, what are you putting into your body from a food perspective, from a images and what you're consuming, on social media and on television. All of these things really play into your mindset. So those are some things that I keep in mind every day. And sometimes I ask myself that question of, did I have to push myself as hard as I did during the season that I was building Park Pick in order for it to be successful? If I had been more balanced, would it have been as successful? And I don't know the answer to that question. Of course, you have to, again, be open to listening to what is God telling you to do and where is he telling you to move. And that to me is how you create balance, even in the season where you are more so focused on your work or you're more so focused on your family. In all of the seasons, maintaining that open ear and kind of making sure that you are being mindful of what God is telling you to do. That to me is kind of how you manage through the seasons and making your own balance